Hi, everyone. This is Coach DeMarco. In today's episode of Focus, I'm going to share with you one of my favorite shooting drills called 40 baskets. 40 baskets is great at all levels, and it got to the core of what I wanted from my shooting drills. We're able to keep up our tempo that we had in practice and get up game speed shots. We're able to get a lot of shots up, hopefully makes, in a short amount of time. Sure, there were times that we did form shooting and we slowed it down and worked on technique, but most of our shooting drills, we wanted game speed shots and we wanted them to be efficient. I'm going to show you why 40 Basket had all of this and more. Today's episode of Focus is brought to you by the Get Better Basketball Chat. Join the Get Better Basketball Chat every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time to connect with the best coaches from all over the country. There's a new topic every week, and you don't want to miss out. The Get Better Basketball Chat is also brought to you by Dr. Dish Basketball. Dr. Dish Basketball provides the fastest way to accelerate skill development and build complete players. Mention GBET BB Chat for up to $300 off select Dr. Dish products. Before I get into a diagram of the drill and then video footage of VCU using it in practice when Shaka Smart was the coach there, I want to take you through the basics and some of the reasons why I loved using this drill in practice. We would put 3 minutes on the clock, or we could make it competitive between two different teams on each end of the floor and say the first to 40 baskets would be the winner. When VCU did it, they called it 30 baskets. You could play really to any number that you wanted. And the other thing I want to mention is we set up outside the three-point line, but you could adjust this for a youth team and shoot closer to the basket if you wanted to, or a college team, and obviously shoot from the college three-point line. 5 shooters line up at 5 different spots. I'll show you that in the diagram. Players are going to rotate clockwise every 5 to 10 or so seconds. And players should communicate this. We wanted our players talking to each other, so they would be the ones telling each other to rotate. They would be the ones communicating with the passes. And I'll get into that a little bit more later on. Players will rebound when they are not shooting. This could include managers at the college level, as you'll see in the video. We typically, if we had 10 to 12 players at the varsity level, we might have 5 shooters and 7 rebounders, or 5 shooters and 5 rebounders. And sometimes we would include our JV team and mix them into the drill. So we make it competitive and go with one team on one end of the floor and one team on the other end of the floor, first to 40 baskets. But you'll have your players doing the rebounding, and also some of the coaches did that as well. Here are some of the benefits. We got in a ton of reps in a short amount of time. That's one of the keys for me to a great shooting drill is you get up tempo, you get a lot of reps in very quickly. Coaches could include this in between periods, as I did, and you could do it more than one time per practice. Some days we would do this 3 different times. That was only about 9 minutes of practice that we were taking up to get up a ton of shots. As I said, it doesn't require a lot of practice time, but one of the things that we would do is we would actually just yell out 40 baskets, and then all the players would scramble, they'd grab the basketballs, they'd line up, and we would start the clock. As soon as we said 40 baskets, that clock is running, and they knew they were up against it, and we kept our tempo and players flying around. It encourages players first to work as a team, because they have to communicate to one another. They have to call for the ball. They have to make great passes to one another. So that communication and that teamwork, and also just getting lined up and getting the basketballs on the court, that was all part of being a team. I love to focus on made shots as opposed to just taking shots. This is a great drill to do that, trying to hit that 40 or whatever your goal is. And players had to make good passes. If there was an errant pass at any point during this drill, it would put them up against it, and basically they might not get their number because they had to chase that ball down. And lastly, players were competing in practice, whether it was against the clock, the number that you wanted them to get to, or against another team on the other end of the court. They were competing fiercely. It was one of their favorite drills, one of my favorite as well. You challenge players to beat the clock or compete against an opponent, as I just mentioned. And lastly, there are opportunities to increase this challenge by closing out on shooters. Coaches could do that. Managers could do that. You can reduce the time that they have to make 40 baskets instead of 3 minutes. You could take it down to 250 or 245, which we did later in the season as we improved. And you could also increase the amount of makes in 3 minutes to challenge them. You could make it 45 or 50 makes if you have that great of a shooting team, or maybe at the college level. These are some of the reasons I love this drill. I'm going to take you through the diagram, and then you're going to love seeing the footage of VCU using this in practice. So just a reminder, as we jump into 40 baskets here, you're going to have 3 minutes on the clock or the first to 40 baskets. There's going to be 5 players shooting from 5 different spots. They're going to rotate about every 5 to 10 seconds or so. And I'm going to share with you the breakdown of the rebounders, the shooters, and how the rotation works right now. So what you're going to see here is our shooters who are labeled S, our rebounders down here who are labeled R, who will then become our shooters. And then I put these blue arrows because that's how we're going to rotate around the perimeter. So after a couple of seconds go by, we're going to have this player rotate out onto the perimeter, and then we're going to rotate around clockwise. Every player is going to move to a new spot. We're going to have this player rotate. This player is going to rotate over to the corner, and then this shooter is going to come off, and they're going to become the next rebounder. And that rotation is going to work the same way. So you get a lot of players involved, and you're going to have them constantly rotating around the perimeter as they get shots up. So they should get a couple of shots up at each spot. But remember, we're doing this for 3 minutes, or you could adjust that time as necessary or needed for your team. One thing that's important that I want to mention is that we used 4 basketballs. So we could have 4 players shooting at a time, which allowed us to get up more shots. When VCU does it, they had 3 basketballs with the 5 players, and they were rotating the ball around. We added an extra basketball because we felt like it was an advantage for our players, and we wanted them to get up more shots. We didn't go with the 5th basketball because we wanted players to communicate ball when they wanted to get a pass from one of their teammates. And we liked it better than using 3 basketballs because we knew that we could get up more shots in this situation, in this particular drill. As I mentioned, one of the things we really like to do was have our players compete against the clock, 3 minutes to get 40 baskets. I'd yell 40 baskets, and all the players would drop what they were doing. They'd run to the court, grab the basketballs, and they would start shooting, and that clock would start immediately. Another way that we like to do it was to put the JV team on this end of the floor and the varsity team on this end of the floor, and we would have them compete against one another. This pushed the varsity team a lot because they didn't want to lose to the JV team. And the last thing that we did was we would mix JV and varsity players on each side of the floor. And again, it was very competitive because the varsity players on one side of the floor did not want to lose to the varsity players on the other side of the floor. And there was always something that was at stake at the end of the drill. And players could also earn individual points for wins in practice. So those are just some examples of how we use 40 baskets. That's how we rotated. You can change the amount of baskets. You can change the time. This will be the same great drill for your team. And now I'm going to show you Virginia Commonwealth using this in practice with Shaka Smart. So here we have it. Here is VCU using this in practice. You'll see their players shooting 3-pointers. There's the rotation. This is Briante Weber at the time. He rotates off, and the other players keep shooting. And now you have another rotation as well. Just going to bring that back one more time for you. And the post players actually are going to shoot a little bit closer than the guards who are going to shoot 3-pointers. Again, you can do this however you want. It's applicable at all levels. It's great at the youth level. It's great at the high school level, and certainly great at the college level. If VCU is using it in practice, they were competing against another team on the other end of the floor. And if you want to increase the challenge, have these players pass and have them close out, or have some of the managers closing out on the players. You can see why I love this drill. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Focus with one of my favorite shooting drills, 40 baskets. Make sure you like this video, subscribe by clicking this box right down here, and add a comment to the comment section with a question that you have or what you liked about this video. I'll definitely answer any questions that coaches have. And I also would love to see how you've used this drill with your team and how it's helped them to improve as shooters. You can follow me on Twitter at coach_DeMarco, and also on YouTube by, again, subscribing by clicking the box right down here. As always, get better every day.